Hey, it's Sarah from Rolling Stone, and I just had a great talk with Giancarlo Esposito about his role in the new series Godfather of Harlem. We're also talking about the Star Wars mythology and its bigger meaning, and about how Breaking Bad has changed his understanding of power. Hello!
Hi, Sarah. How are you? It's good to see you today.
How have you been?
I've been well. I've been working very hard. I've just been doing the second season of Godfather of Harlem in New York,
Mhm.
and I completed my portion of that and traveled up to Toronto, where I'm currently in quarantine to continue the third season of The Boys.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Godfather of Harlem. I feel like you, as an actor, are really aware of your where your role and your person meet, and also when the bigger picture comes into place. And Godfather of Harlem also does that really interestingly, where it's incorporating the Black politics during the civil rights movement with you as the congressman, Powell Jr., and Malcolm X. And I feel like you two have pretty different approaches where you are more changing the system from within, and Malcolm X is more the idealist trying to reboot the system. And I wanted to ask you how you explored that in your role and how your understanding of those different approaches has been developing.
I've enjoyed my time on Godfather, and I've certainly done an extensive amount of research to bring Adam Clayton Powell to life, as I feel it's my responsibility as an actor not to play myself, but to figure out the elements of who this human being really is or was, so that people who don't know him can tune in and realize he was the first Black man ever to be elected to Congress, and that he was fully committed to the work he did there on behalf of not only Black people, but also poor white people. And that his main focus, as you pointed out, a very, very different focus than that of Malcolm X, was to change the way the system worked and to change it in a good way for African Americans. So, in many ways, I feel like the power of his instrument, which was his voice and his brain and his intellect and his savvy, he was a very fun human being who was smart. The voice of that really helped lay down changing of laws. And I feel like our show in Godfather of Harlem is in its contemporary connection to that, is that we're still trying to do those same things today in
Yeah.
regard to systemic racism. It really is about now, what do you do after you march? So Malcolm was the marcher, and not to take anything away from the effect and power that Malcolm X had over the people, and to credit his vision, it is very different for Adam Clayton Powell Jr. And to really sum it up in a way, Adam knew that he had the ear of John F. Kennedy. And that's where the Civil Rights Act began. Adam started to write the Rights Act and would include the Powell Amendment, as it's called, within that act to gain equality. And it didn't happen with Kennedy, but it certainly followed over into LBJ, who Powell was a friend of. Now, they fought and argued and all of that, but in the end, it was their relationship that helped move this forward. So they're two very different ways of going about empowerment. And I would say that, Malcolm X would empower people within the nation. He was about to become very powerful outside of the nation, because he would start to think about and have his own ideas, not ideas that were passed down by Elijah Muhammad, but ideas that he realized as he was leaving the nation, that maybe we can't do this as peacefully as I thought we could. But Powell was really incredibly effective because he was in Congress and
Mm-hmm.
because he could sway the vote, and he could really use his charm and intelligence to keep pushing back on those who said no. And that's legality. And when you do it in that way, it's etched in stone forever in those bills. And that's the beginning of change.
Yeah, and he's also been really open and really public figure. Like I felt like your roles in Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, The Mandalorian have all been characters that have kept their power because of the mystery, because of the unknown, because there is so much hidden, whereas you're now playing that, you know, bigger than life figure that shows, here I am. So how does that change your understanding of power?
Well, this helps me understand power in a different way. It's taken me a long time to bring my power to a character and not just completely lose myself. I feel toward the end of our second season of playing Adam Clayton Powell in Godfather of Harlem that I've completely lost myself because Adam takes over. But he was a powerful man, so that's okay. I feel like we as human beings sometimes don't realize how powerful we are because we're not connected to our originality, and because we are afraid to misstep or afraid to not have the answer. And all of those things lend to your power. I was doing a scene on set with Robert Morgenthau, the actor for season 2. Don't want to spoil it for you or any of the fans, but a young actor, Justin Bartha, was playing Morgenthau, who, if you know your history, and even if you don't, it's okay. He was the district attorney of New York who was Jewish. And so Morgenthau, I kept going, Morgenthau, and I knew, and then looked up to corroborate that Morgenthau was a German Jew. His name is German. And so I knew there was going to be this correlation in my brain to what happened in Germany with the Germans and the Jews. And that would be important to his character. Whether he knew it or not, I knew it. And so we had a very philosophical conversation that went 2 or 3 scenes throughout the episode. And I realized that finally something he said to me was so extremely important. And I'm making a point here about humanity. And I realized, oh, right, you want to win. It just came into my consciousness. You just want to win this argument. And Adam, at the end of the day, was very cool. I was extremely relaxed, but I busted myself because I said, you can't win this, because the final thing he says to you is true. So how do you play that through your emotion? Keep your power, right? Question yourself, keep your power, but lose that part of the argument. Allow the audience to know that you've compromised a little and that you're going to think about it. And that was a huge moment for me. But humans, you know, we don't like to be there because we feel like losing is not powerful. That's powerful too. Being a good loser, you know, from our country, being a good loser is powerful because it's graceful, because it embodies and it holds within it the grace to say, this is the system, this is the way it worked. Thank you for having me. That's grace. So I've been blessed in Mandalorian to create a Moff Gideon who comes from history too. Maybe Moff wasn't around as me, but there were other Moffs. So I looked up Peter Cushing and other Moffs and what their attitudes were. And Cushing was so graceful and articulate and amazing. But I said, oh, I like that, but I can never copy anyone because that's just not in my consciousness. But I went, wow, I'm already graceful. So I got that, but I want to make him edgier. I want him to have a little more of an edge, but an authority that knows everything about everyone. So if you know everything about everyone and what's going to happen, there's nothing that can bother you. There's nothing that really threatens you. You may get Yoda, Baby Yoda now, or Grogu. You may get him later, but it's not going to bother you because you have a balance of a column within you, like your spinal cord, that is your morality, and you know what you're after. The audience doesn't, so there's the secret. And also with Breaking Bad, I'm also very, very blessed and pleased to play a guy who's more observant than anything. Gus says very little, because he's clocking everything, and another person who knows a lot about people that they don't know he knows. And he sees and observes and is hypervigilant about everything. So I love to be able to play with power in those ways, but power is dangerous. So all of these characters have allowed me to become more humble because, you know, I've been nominated for a few Emmys and people go, oh my God, he's in everything. I see you everywhere. But it's allowed me to be humble and be in gratitude, because the gratitude is what has gotten me where I am. To be grateful for the opportunity and to be able to play these roles in the way that I do is really wonderful. On the set of Mandalorian, when, you know, Jon Favreau, he's brilliant. You know, I mean, he directed Zathura. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, it's a great movie, and a bunch of other things. I mentioned that because it's a kid's movie. It's fantastic. However, when he came down to the set and said, and I said, you know, he said, what do you think about this moment? And I said, doesn't really work for me. Well, that's why I hired you. Let's talk about it with the director. We did for 5 minutes. And he looked at me, he looked at the director. He said, I trust you both, but I trust your instincts, Giancarlo. And that was a moment for me that was really strong. Because as an actor, you go in and you go in and you do what you're told. I mean, I got pages here on this desk from the next show and the show after that. And I start early. and you do the lines, you do what you're expected to do. But after I do all my work here, it becomes a part of me. And then I'm able to be fluid. And then I know if it feels right or not. And if someone allows me the opportunity to say, I literally, when Jon Favreau said that to me, I went, oh, I had to go look at myself for a minute. Oh yeah, that is where I'm at in my career. That is where I'm at in my intelligence, in my spirit. And so we worked out that moment, me and the director, in a beautiful way, honestly, because it didn't go to my ego. It was just like, okay, when the writer Chris Brancato calls me from Godfather of Harlem, I want to know what you think about these pages. And I said, I think I look at them, I think, I said to him, look, these pages are good. I would make very few tweaks. Well, if you want, make them. I said, because it really, really works for me. He said, I just want to know how we can make it better. Wow. So you take your ego out of stuff. He came back to me a week later. We had another scene to do. And he said, so I'm going to send new pages for this last scene. I said, Chris, you just realized that doesn't work? He said, yeah, I did. I realized it doesn't work at all. And I said, good, let's go through it together. And that's an honor which I could take into my ego, but I take it into my heart and be realistic about it. I don't want to help fix it if nothing's broken, but if there's some way we can make it better. I just love Chris Brancato from Godfather. Let's take this and make it better. How about that?
Thank you so much. It's
You're
been
welcome.
a pleasure talking to you. I think we're running out of time.
Do you have any burning desire questions?
Well, I just wanted to go into mythology because you're on the set of Mandalorian, and then you're in the pumping streets of New York in Harlem with like that poppy music, and that's two very different experiences. I just wanted to ask you how that feels like to fuse like from the purely historical world into the mythical world. And
I can answer that. I'm very connected, and when I do interviews about Mandalorian, which you may already know, I talk a lot about the connection to the mythological position that the show is in, because I believe that George Lucas drew on that through his friendship with Joseph Campbell on the bigger idea of what the hero means and how we relate to the hero and how these shows, Mandalorian specifically and especially, are helping us to create our own hero. See, until we're able to embrace that hero within us, the god and goddess within us, then how are we able to show that to the world? Until we wake up in the morning, think of my lovely second daughter, who says, I finally realized to wake up in the morning and look at myself in the mirror and go, I love you. And until we're able to say, I love you. So that mythological sense that there is no life or death because we're lending to a bigger continuum is something that many people don't understand. Like they're afraid of death, afraid of transition because it's over. No, it's not over. Like in your own personal healing, you can heal seven generations back and 7 generations ahead. Now, I don't know if I want to be responsible for all those generations, but the traumatic experiences go that far from, that affect you. And you can look into that. But mythologically, we will win as human beings when we connect to the mythological reason we're here, whether it be to be the hero, whether it be to be the villain, whether it be we're playing out our karma on the world stage. So when I'm in New York with Adam Clayton Powell Jr. and I can't hear Swiss Beats' music, like that's contemporary, right? Against the backdrop of what we're doing. I can't hear that, but I can honor the mythology of Adam Clayton Powell in his continuum that's continuing through me, because I'm so very specific about how I play him. I don't want people to see me. I want people to see this great man that had never been really acknowledged for all that he did and all that he was, So mythology plays a big, big piece of what I do in every character that I play. And I'm so happy you asked me that question. It really is. It's a strong one. And we can think about the larger scale of things and that larger continuum, then maybe we'll start to feel like we belong and that our voice means something, as everyone's does. And so then we'll stop to minimize or diminish ourselves and our position in the world. We'll say, no, wait, excuse me. No, I do want to say this. And we can do that without anger, without malice. But when our voice is heard, all of our ancestors are flowing through us. all of the mythology of great beings is flowing through us, and we become more honest and truthful by the minute, by the hour, and by the day.